It just happened again, as the NHL has officially suspended Matt Rempe for his hit on Miro Heiskanen. We're going to get into how many games he's suspended for, what this means for the New York Rangers, and what implications this could have for Matt Rempe's career moving forward. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, it's official. Matt Rempe has officially been suspended by the NHL, and the decision came down. Obviously, the hearing was during the game in the afternoon against the Carolina Hurricanes, but the official number is 8 games for Matt Rempe. New York Rangers, and this is from the official NHL player safety account. New York Rangers Matt Rempe has been suspended for 8 games for boarding/elbowing Dallas's Miro Heiskanen. Now, if you ask me, this was 100% a major penalty. It was 100% a boarding penalty. I don't know why it was called elbowing, but nonetheless, I mean, his elbow was up. And this is a player, I talked about it in a previous video, that needs to learn how to use his body at the NHL level. And it's not that the officials don't know how to call penalties on big players. There's been monster players before. Tage Thompson is a big player. Zdeno Chara is a big player, right? And I mean, I saw some discourse about Matt Rempe's a dirty player and Zdeno Chara never played dirty. I don't know if that necessarily is true over the course of his NHL career, but I think it's very interesting. And Matt Rempe, nonetheless, this was a major penalty, and it's, you know, he's taken a lot of major penalties if you include fighting in his young NHL career. Matt Rempe is also considered a repeat offender, and he will forfeit $80,000 in salary for his 8-game suspension. Now, we're going to get into reactions from others because obviously there are some in the New York media that think that he should appeal, like Larry Brooks, that he should appeal the suspension tomorrow. Now, I don't know if I fall in that category. This is a repeat offender. This is a guy in his very young NHL career who's taken a plethora of major penalties. So I feel like they are going to make an example out of this player. That's something I wanted to touch on too. I feel like the NHL with this 8-game suspension, because we know that he got an in-person hearing, and that's no surprise to me. You know, like, this is a player, we'll get into that in a second. This is a player in, 22 career NHL games, like a very young NHL career. And again, I think Matt Rempe has a lot of use for the New York Rangers. I just want to preference that first, that I think that what he can bring to this lineup, if he were to learn how to play in the NHL and use his body correctly, is something that not many teams have. This is a giant. This is a guy who can inject energy into the lineup when he plays the right way. And we saw it in the game against Dallas before he got suspended, or, before he got the major penalty. He drew 3 penalties of his own. They didn't capitalize on the power play, but he was actively having a positive impact on the game. So I think when he does play his game the correct way, and he learns to play in the NHL with his frame and his size, he's actually a very effective player. But it's the 4th time in his very young NHL career that he's been tossed from a game, and he was previously suspended. This is the main thing as well for the Department of Player Safety, which I'll get into in a second. He was already suspended for 4 games in March of last year, or last season, for elbowing Jonas Siegenthaler from the New Jersey Devils. So he is a repeat offender at this point. So obviously they're going to throw the book at him. And this is from the CBA. Players who repeatedly violate the league playing rules shall be more severely punished for each new violation. Now, I do think that the one last year might have actually been more egregious, but the fact that he's a repeat offender, they're going to make an example out of this guy. If it wasn't Matt Rempe, if it was anyone else, and it has to do with his size too, I'm not sure the suspension is this long. I'm not sure that, he's getting a call from the league to go there in person. The fact that it was in person, you're getting at least 6 games. I predicted 6 or 7. He obviously gets 8. The league wants to make an example out of a guy like this, and I think they have to send a message as well, because if you're a Rangers fan, yes, you like what Matt Rempe brings to the lineup. Like, I think that he can bring physicality to the lineup. Again, like I mentioned, that energy, but he's got to tone it down a smidge. And actually, not even a smidge. He's got to learn how to use his frame in the NHL. That's just the fact of the matter. And if he doesn't, not only are these suspensions going to rack up, he could end up getting, kicked, like a ban from the league or something. He may not see time in the league again, because this is putting his team at a disadvantage. Now, missing him for these 8 games, they've been without Rempe this season. So I don't think that's putting the team at a huge disadvantage. But when he does things like this in a game, it's putting your team at a disadvantage. And until that point, he was actually having a very positive impact on that game. So I thought that was very interesting. And again, a repeat offender. Jay Fresh likes to post these player cards. Unfortunately, Matt Rempe hasn't even played enough for his model, so it's a very young NHL career that this is already happening in. And I'm trying not to defend the player too much either. I mean, I think he has great use. I think he can bring something very unique to this lineup, but he's got to clean it up. So he has to significantly clean it up, right? Like, it is not what you need at times. Like, this is what I'm talking about. He can have a positive impact, but then he does stuff like that, and that's tough. But the Rangers could use more of the positive impact that he brings to the lineup, especially this season. Again, young NHL career. He's only played 22 games to this point. He has 1 goal, 1 assist. He has 2 points in his NHL career. He has a ton of penalty minutes. He already has 24 penalty minutes this season. He had 71 last year in 17 games. And one thing that's been lost in all of this too, he's been sent down to the AHL's Hartford Wolfpack this season for more conditioning. And he had a great quote about how, you know, he was sent down there to get some conditioning in. He's playing a different role down there. He's playing more minutes, because another thing that was lost in this is a player who plays under 8 minutes on average for the New York Rangers when he's in the lineup. So, you know, he's taken on a new role with Hartford in hopes that he can translate that to the NHL in his NHL game. It hasn't really gotten there yet. He hasn't done anything egregious in the AHL. So I feel like if he is to translate what he's doing in the AHL to the NHL, it might be a little bit better, but I feel like his role in the NHL is to be that guy. They want him to run around and kind of throw these hits, right? But he's got to learn how to do it properly and safely. He's 6'8" on skates, right? When you throw a hit like the one that he threw on Miro Heiskanen here, it looks terrible. Of course you're going to obliterate the guy. If it's a smaller player, right? You can throw all your might into a hit, right? And you might hit the guy if you're a much smaller player. But if you're Matt Rempe, you can't throw all your might into these hits, because you're going to destroy guys and you're going to take major penalties. And it's reckless, right? So Matt Rempe has to clean that up. That's the other thing. It's reckless. He's hurting guys. Obviously, this one turned out okay, and I like to see Heiskanen get up okay. So that one did turn out okay, but it is a little reckless at times. So do I think he has use for the Rangers, and do I think he'll see time in the lineup again after his 8-game suspension? Absolutely. But the fact that he's gotten suspended twice, one of them is for 4 games, one of them is now for 8 games. The next suspension that comes down, I mean, if he's got to clean it up. He cannot afford another suspension at this point, right? He is riding a very weird line right now where he cannot afford to take another suspension. Very young NHL career. So hopefully he cleans it up. Again, like I said, has use for this team, but he's just got to clean it up, or he has no use for this team if he continues to do stuff like this. So very interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. It's official. 8-game suspension for Matt Rempe. Some people would like him to appeal. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm not sure the NHL has time of day for that either, especially because he's a repeat offender. And again, he's got to learn how to use his body. He's doing these things over and over again. So again, I think they are making an example out of him, but maybe for good reason in a way as well. But I do think we will see him back in a New York Rangers uniform after the suspension is done, because the Rangers season, and again, they won that game mostly in part because of Igor Shesterkin, but you know, there is a place, I believe, still for guys like this in the NHL, or guys that bring stuff like this, the energy, the physicality, stuff like that. But he's got to do it smarter. He has to clean it up. But again, let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.